This is a demonstration video on how to start and use the Diablo Evo. In this case, it's a classic. There's no difference between this and the regular one, except for this one doesn't have the LED counter. That was intentional. I would prefer to have something simple with less moving parts, in the sense that I don't want an extra doohickey on there. I understand that some people respond favorably to the feedback. So there are features that have, it's like maybe you've got a number goal or something like that, and the counter is going to have like a little number on it and this kind of stuff. I don't appreciate the availability of the gamification of things. I'm not from the generation that responds positively to that. Actually do exactly the opposite. So this is a typical example of what's available for an auto start. And the difference between an auto start and the earlier generations of stuff is you'd have like a little string and you'd wind it around and then you'd ripcord the string, and that's how it would start up. In this case, so the first thing to learn is, so this edge is rubberized, and then as you look here, these two strips, also black, are rubberized, and this rolls fairly freely, but you'll notice that there's an arrow there. Okay, and so I actually wind it in the direction the arrow is pointing, and the reason there are these little rubber strips is so that I can kind of do this. Now, for somebody doing rehab, which is something I'm doing, this is actually fairly difficult to do depending on your situation. So it's possible for you to actually take this and put it down on a table and pull it along the table, as long as it's a nice flat surface and you've got enough length to pull it. Don't force it, but you can actually do that well enough that you don't need to do this with your hands. In my case, I think it's pretty safe for me to use my thumbs to do that, but I might switch to using like a desk or something like that, a counter. Okay, so first thing is to take the little inner ball and you're turning it. So you're turning it and you're going to feel a little bit of resistance happening. And you'll get instruction videos that say, oh, you should do this until it stops turning. You might not be able to do that if you're doing, if this is necessary for rehab. So just do it a bunch. And again, the table thing is an option. And it's not, I'm actually doing this kind of slowly and inefficiently. So I have officially used this once. So I'm of the opinion that I should be able to teach something after doing it once fairly successfully. Okay, so I've wound it well enough that I have to keep my thumb there in order to stop it from spinning. So the first thing to learn is what it's like when you let go. Okay? So you'll be able to hear it. And it's kind of wobbling around, maybe a little bit. Maybe it won't go anywhere. And you're going to hear it as it stops. It'll take a while because it's efficient. Hear it kind of like it's running off rails. It's clacking at the end. So there's two sounds you need to be aware of. One is the smooth sound, and the other is the clank. The smooth sound is the good sound. The clank is the bad sound. Now, when it's being operated, you're aiming to continue that smooth sound uninterrupted. The clank means that the tumbling is changing directions, hasn't quite figured itself out yet, or you're moving it in an incorrect way. And if it's constantly clanking around like that, just you're going to need to either stop completely or switch hands to your dominant hand, so the hand you write with. So I'm right-handed, so I begin and I would return to my right hand if I need to, because I'm really awkward with my left hand. Is if you're hearing that clanking, just kind of like start again. And so I'm going to begin this process with it in my right hand as I let go and spin it. So I'm gonna wind it up one more time. Am I pointing this in the right direction? This way? Nope. Okay. Take a moment. And some people say that they don't need to spin it up very much at all, or they can just rip it across the table really quick, and they're talented enough to get it going. But the more you wind it up is the more time you have to get the groove going. Okay, so twisted, twisted. I'm about to transfer it to my right hand and then just let it go. And okay, it wants to wobble around. My goal is just to kind of rock it, and you'll hear it. It's not clanking, so this is me doing it wrong. It's kind of like, okay, so, and I actually screwed it up completely, so I'm going to start it over again. Okay. Now I want you to imagine that you're on a swing, and you know how in order to make the swing go higher, you kind of give it a little nudge and then you just let go. And that's the fun part, is you're kind of like low gravity. So you give it a little lean and you get into it, and then you kind of let go and have the fun. And you're not doing anything when you're on that relaxed side of the swing. And some people, they know how to like lean a different way and really get going, but we imagine that you're just on a nice swing attached to a tree and you lean into it. And that's much the same way, is you're tilting it a certain way to give it a little nudge, and then you're tilting it back. And so all you're doing is kind of like if you're making like a pizza crust or something like that, or you've got some dough in your hands and you're just kind of like flipping it back and forth, nice and relaxed, and it'll figure itself out. So I'm going to start it back up again. Okay. I'm already sore. I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to turn it. And if you just use your primary hand until you can figure this part out. And I need to turn it a little bit better. And here it's kind of like, I think I screwed up already. Oh, I screwed it up. Unedited. And I screwed it up because I didn't get it. I didn't wind it all the way. And I didn't it didn't click. Like I wasn't good enough soon enough. Let's try again. Now I'm not moving my elbow at all, and I should keep my shoulder relaxed. The goal is I'm working out in here, and there's actually, I've got a grip problem on my hands as well, so that's one of the reasons why I got this. Again, this is the smaller. It's supposed to be 10% smaller. It's one of the. I wasn't sure if I would regret this because it's smaller and I've got nice big hands, but it seems to be working okay. I mean, I've got no grip issues or anything like that in terms of its size. I have grip issues that I'm working on. That's why I have this. And I'm already sore. This is actually very difficult. Now, it's possible once you understand to just gently spin it up. If you try to force it doing this, yeah, you're doing something wrong. You should be able to just move your hand, not forcing it, but just very gently rocking into it. And some people say what they do is they spin up to as fast as they're comfortable, and then they just gently spin it down. They don't stop briefly, and that's what they call a rep. And then they switch hands and they do it again. So in my particular case, I'm really sore, and I'm just going to stop dead. And I'm going to move it to my other hand. I'm like, okay, how do I do this again? Okay. And as soon as you catch it, just don't do anything special. Keep going in the exact same way. And you'll notice it's slower. You'll hear the pitch is lower. And that's because I'm really awkward with my left hand. And it's not because it's necessarily more damaged, it's just because I'm really not sure how to move this hand. Now, I'm going to have to switch to my right hand after it's rested slightly. Now, how you rock it back and forth is kind of like if your tree is, your swing is pointing north, south, or east, west. It doesn't technically matter, but you still need to have the same motion. So now you'll notice that I'm spinning this way with my proper hand. So I happen to be spinning in this direction. I can change my mind and I can go in the other direction. I just have to. This is not as comfortable for me just with the way I think. And it didn't spin down. I didn't have to start from scratch. So again, I can just catch it in the other direction. I was really surprised that this could do that so smoothly. Other direction. As some people might do this on purpose. Okay, so it's possible some people do it down like this, and some people are more comfortable like this, and some people go the other way. Maybe some people, right? Okay, so you have different workouts, let's say. Okay, so I'm sure different stuff is happening depending on what position I'm in. And this is really easy for me to get going really fast. And here it's clicking and I'm all awkward. Oh, I just want to throw it. Okay, so this is the metal version. This is aluminum in this case. There's a stainless steel version that is supposed to be, it has a faster, higher speed so that you could wind it up even faster if you've got great strength. And I chose this particular one because although the plastic version is supposed like military grade or whatever the heck, right? So you can drop it and it's drop proof, whether or not you can throw it against a wall. I mean, just don't do that. But I wanted something that I perceived as being more solid. Now, so that means that if you're damaged and you're working with this and you go ow, you just let it go. Just let it go. Like if you're lifting weights and you get an owie, and this is why it's very dangerous to do certain things without somebody spotting for you or helping you or whatever. Because if you're doing something, you're lifting, or I'm laying back and I was doing this, and something gives, and I don't have the strength anymore, it's gonna fall on me, right? So that's why you've got somebody over you, maybe with their hands right on the bar, just in case. And something like this, you're almost certainly going to be there alone doing this, just in your spare time, doing something at your computer while you're watching a video. And so that means you've got nobody else there to tell you to hold it, to anything like that. So the reason I got something that's aluminum is for the knowing that it is an option for me to let it go and for it to drop. And it's better for me to sacrifice an object, even the object that I drop it onto, than it is for me to risk doing more damage. And if you're doing rehab, then you need to go slow, and you might discover the hard way where your limits are. And often when doing, you've got to talk with your professionals about stuff like this. Your situation is going to be quite unique to you because you're unique, and the circumstances of an injury, for example, are unique. And that even applies to where you're at if you're not doing this as like a physiotherapy kind of aid. if you're doing this as a workout for your grip, because you're doing, this isn't necessarily about grip strength or form strength. It'll do that. Just, what do I have here? This is a little squeeze ball. Okay. Squeeze. Go do some squats. Squeeze and do some sit-ups. Right? This does stuff. And this will give me a little bit of grip and stuff like that. But it's not the same as something that I need to pay attention to move it. Okay? So it's not just me. I can actually squeeze on this the same way. I'm really not going to do that because it wants to move, and I need to move it. So what's happening is I'm not doing the same thing as a squeeze. I'm being more delicate in a sense. So what's happening with this isn't necessarily or just a matter of strength, but it's a matter of sensitivity. So I'm getting more practice with knowing how to hold something delicately and to control it intentionally. And this is why somebody who's doing something like golf, for example, where you're moving an object, and so you need to have some strength, but you also need to have a kind of finesse that lots of practice will give, right? Even if it's you just swinging with not hitting anything, you're not even outside or anything like that. That's one thing. But having some way of practicing the fine motions lets you get better at that without it necessarily being a strength thing. So that's important. So I think I've talked around the topic well enough. So the reasons that I got this versus the plastic one is perception of durability. It's not the other one's actually supposed to be very durable, but it's the perception that I like. And this is both slightly smaller, which I thought might be even risky because I've got large hands. But I kind of wanted something that was a little bit smaller. I don't know why, but this is also slightly heavier because it's made out of aluminum, right? Or at least the core components, right? And it being something heavier, I just thought, even if I can't spin it as fast, the fact that it's slightly heavier means that I'm holding a little bit more, that it's doing other things to me, it's helping me in other ways. So if I'm weak with the movement, at least I can work on just holding an object. There is a version of this that is there's a version that's a little larger than all the rest, and it is stainless steel, and so it's heavier still. And going to that end of stuff, you're not thinking in terms of physiotherapy anymore, unless you want something that's heavier like what I wanted, or you want something that's larger. So if you have needs that way, but it gets really expensive up at that end. The entry level stuff was reasonable. Actually, this is first world income reasonable. And what I hadn't budgeted for this. And I wasn't sure I wanted it. But the reason I went ahead with this as opposed to, the old-fashioned like 1800s workout is you just take some newspaper, scrunch it up in your hands. And so you not that I can show you, but you take some newspaper and you scrunch it up and you roll it up into your hands, and then you let it go, and then you scrunch it up again. And that's actually very, very good for all kinds of stuff. I could have done that. That's cheap enough. I could have taken a squeeze ball and instead of this, I could have worked on this, and I could have worked on all kinds of articulate. I could have done all that stuff, but one of the things that I've argued is this is a toy, and I know myself well enough that the fact that this is a machine, that this is a toy, that this is an object, makes it more engaging for me to think about, to pick up, and to use, as opposed to some simple thing. This is a device that engages me more as a person who likes devices, and that might actually mean something to you. So sometimes it's the fact that you invest into something. This costs money as opposed to some newspaper. So maybe this prompts me to feel like I should use it. Maybe you work the same way. The fact that it costs money and it's for a purpose, as opposed to, I mean, this doesn't quite feel like it's for that purpose. Maybe it's like a stress ball or whatever. Certainly paper doesn't feel like it's for that purpose. Like this is for one thing. I can use it as a paperweight, but this exists for a purpose. So now I have a tool for a particular task, and I've invested and I've recognized that I ought to do that. And as a motivational thing, having arranged all of that means that I've made the choice to work on that particular thing. And I'm hoping that this will help me do that. The fact that it's a thing that costs money, and it's interesting and cool. I don't like the fact that it's got writing all over it. I think I'm rather disgusted by having basically advertising for the thing I already own. I'm actually annoyed that it doesn't actually have its model on it. I'll just have to remember what the thing is called. Anyway, so I've shown you how to wind it up with the arrows, how to let it spin, what it sounds like when it's going, when it's clinking around, when it's stopping, or when it's going faster. So you'll hear the pitch change. I've talked about how you can move it in a direction, how you can change directions, how you can change your hand, how you would get things going on with your good hand. Maybe you're ambidextrous, or you happen to be way better with your offhand than I am. You get it spinning on your right hand, then you transfer it. Don't feel bad about how you need to have it wind down again. Don't try to keep it going at the same speed. And especially if you've got, if maybe you're going to use both your hands, but maybe one hand is definitely worse than the other. It is okay to let it wind down, but find its low speed. Find the speed that's appropriate. Be careful about how you push yourself. Be prepared to drop it. I've never felt that way, but I will definitely, I'll stop and I'll just let it wind down in my hand. Don't try to drop it on a table or anything like that. If you can hold it and let it spin down without clunking around, I get the impression that it's more polite to treat it that way, to let it just gently spin down as opposed to just clinking around like a thing and kind of forcing it to stop. I don't know why it would really be a problem, but don't put your thumb here as a way of stopping it. It's not like a dirt bike where you can pedal, you can hold your feet on the pedals as a way of just burning rubber to make the thing stop. Don't bother doing that kind of thing. So yeah, I think I've covered everything. So in terms of what this is, first impression is good. Hopefully I've set things up so I can actually use it regularly. This is now kind of the 1 and a 10th time that I've used it. So I'm sore now. So hopefully I can use this daily and use it a couple of times a day and just kind of stay fairly sore. And I think for some kinds of things, staying fairly sore but not very sore, it might work. For some people, what needs to happen is you push yourself and then you have a rest period. And people do that with upper versus lower body or something like that. I'm choosing to do this regularly, but very gently, and to stay kind of at that level of being a little bit tired. Maybe I'll change my mind. So you understand yourself at all times. Figure out what works for you. Figure out your schedule, etc. This is cool and small, and I'm going to put it on my desk. And it actually came with a carrying case because it's one of the metal ones. So it's more expensive. So it came with the carrying case that normally costs money. And so I'm just going to kind of plunk it down on my desk in that. And every once in a while, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to spin it up for, I don't know. I'm not going to time it because, again, it doesn't have LEDs, or is LED the right term? Whatever. It doesn't have the electronics. So I don't know. I don't care. I don't think it matters. I'm just going to constantly pay attention to how I feel, and just if I'm rested, I will work a little bit, and I will get to that tired state, and I'll just keep pushing myself without timing myself. So this has gone on for far too long. I could tell you some stories about why I want to use this kind of thing, why I need to use this kind of thing, but you've got your own story. Hopefully this will inspire you to get one for yourself.